really insignificant when it comes to the power of nature. My name is Juan Cantu, and my wife Gabriel and I were a victim of Hurricane Harvey. We live in southeast Texas, and this is the story that I have to say. When we heard that Hurricane Harvey was approaching the area, we have had experiences with hurricane before, Hurricane Ike and Hurricane Rita. So we took note, as well we should have. And we were kind of prepared, but not really prepared. It started out from the Aransas Pass area and drifted over to Houston, and there's where it stayed. So it rained and rained and rained, and it reached the lake area and Sabine and San Raven area, and so it was full. All the reservoirs were full. So it was just beginning to really multiply. The street started flooding. You could see that it was starting to come up into the yard, and I started measuring it from the street to the house, and it just kept coming up and coming up, and then we were hoping that it would stop, but it just wouldn't. My wife went to bed. I sat in the recliner, and it just kept raining and kept raining. And the next thing we noticed that the carpet started to swell. The water started coming into the house. All of a sudden, the carpet just gave a big old burp where all the air was coming out of the carpet as the water kept increasing. Then I knew pretty much then that things were getting pretty serious, and that we were definitely going to flood. There was no doubt about it. My main concern was electricity, number one. Number two was how much we were going to flood. We really didn't know. And so as it just kept coming in, it reached the 1 foot mark, and I decided to wake up Gabriel. I went and told her to get up. I said, you need to get up, because we're having a difficult time out here. And then the lights went out after that. And it just kept increasing, it kept coming up. It reached about the 25-inch mark, I suppose, and it started coming up into where it started reaching the bed, so we couldn't stay on top of it anymore, so we had to just walk around in it. And the icebox started floating. It was a pretty serious situation. One thing you realize in those types of situations is that, number one, how much is it going to flood? How deep is it really going to get? And number two, are we going to be able to get out of here? Those are the two things that you really think about a lot. When the morning came, finally, we had accumulated roughly about 30 inches of water in the house in certain areas. And in the back fence, I think it got up to as much as 34. All of a sudden, as the sun came up, you could start hearing helicopters. There were just helicopters all over the place. So it was the Coast Guard that was rescuing people, and then we started seeing a lot of boats in the area coming around. It was this Cajun Navy, and it's a real thing. The Cajun Navy is definitely a real thing. And they came and fished us out. I guess it was around 6:30 in the morning, and dropped us off underneath the underpass on Interstate 10, and pretty much just left us there. And there was the whole neighborhood was there. We were all huddled up underneath the underpass there. No one could get to us because we were totally surrounded with water. The trucks, it was just too deep for anybody to come into the area. And so that was a real kind of like the feeling of isolation there. I mean, you were totally stuck. You couldn't go north, you couldn't go south. Interstate 10 towards the Beaumont area was closed because the Neches River had swollen, and we were about to close the interstate going towards east towards Louisiana because the Sabine River started swelling. All the neighbors were kind of like we were literally in the same boat, because one boat picked several neighbors up in the neighborhood, and so we were all in the same boat. Pardon the pun. And so when you're like that, you really realize, that when you're trying to survive, everyone's the same, and you're judged on how much you can do for the group. and everybody was doing a wonderful job. You realize just how important morale is when you're in a position like that, because you have to keep your spirits up. You have to realize that it is a disaster. It is something that you're going through, but you have to keep going. And so the morale was really, it's really what impressed me on how everybody pulled together and kept everybody's spirits up. Another thing that you realize whenever you're in that type of position is that all the infrastructure is down. So you really have to do for yourself, and you end up makeshifting to survive. And I mean that literally, to survive. It's interesting when you drive through an area that's been hit hard by a hurricane. It's really revealing it reveals exactly how vulnerable we all are. And when you're standing in water that is just all over, you realize just how insignificant you are when it comes to nature. So after it all drains out and you see the devastation, again you'll realize, just how powerful nature is. You can have something 1 minute and it can be totally taken away the next. And that's very surreal, very surreal.